Diaries. My name is Caitlin, and we are in the garden today for a garden tour. I had to sneak in between some thunderstorms, but I am determined to get a garden tour done today. The garden, as you just saw, is absolutely exploding. It's exploding. So I want to get out here while I physically can still get in the garden because we are quickly losing access to this garden. So this has been a crazy year for this garden. I think this is an abnormal year for this garden. Typically, I have what I call the August curse. We all know the August curse. In August, the heat and the heat makes your plants grow crazy, makes your plants go crazy, but it also makes your weeds go crazy. And by August, you have so much coming in that you have to preserve and put up. It's so hot outside that you don't want to be in the garden, that the weeds just take over. And I do a video every year where I talk about the August curse and I say, don't worry, it's going to go crazy. You're going to get it back in order. Don't worry. It's July, it's mid-July, and the August curse has already happened. And to the point that the August curse actually happened like July 1st. This garden has been absolutely wild for at least the last 3 weeks. It's been a strange summer. Getting bit. I didn't put any bug spray on today, and that was a mistake. I'm getting bit up. This summer has been wild. We started in June with a massive heat wave, over 100 degrees for like 8 days in a row. The garden loved that. The plants loved that. The weeds loved that. It loved it. And now we're in this cycle of thunderstorms every single day. And the thunderstorms are putting down rain. We have gotten, just yesterday alone, about an hour and a half, we got over an inch to an inch and a half of rain. And that's happening daily. We came into summer in a drought. Last fall, we were in a drought. Over winter, we did not get enough snow. So we started summer in a drought. And they officially said yesterday that our drought has ended. We've gotten enough rain. We've caught back up. We are officially no longer in a drought, which is great news. And so with all that rain and with all this heat and all the humidity, because it is humid, everything is exploding. I have asparagus. Is it in here? Yeah, it's on the outer edge of the garden. I have asparagus that is over 10 foot tall. It is, I can't even touch it when I put my hand up in the air. I've never had asparagus fronds get that tall. My green bean arch. I've never had the green beans come across the arch. I plant them on this side and they grow up. And then I try to plant some on this side, have them meet in the middle. This side never really grows that well. I have one going up it now. But this side is coming over. They're fully coming over. And I'm now trellis, or training them is the word, to come down this side of the trellis. Everything is growing exponentially. I've never had this cattail get this tall. It gave me one little itty bitty cattail, but I'm loving that little cattail. But this thing is super tall. So everything in the garden this year is excelling. It is excelling, and I am doing my best to keep up with the weeds. I will say, aside from a little area over here, which I'll show you in a minute, I will say, get the mosquito. I got the mosquito. Ooh, 2 in 1. Okay, sorry. I'm getting bit up, and if they're going to bite me, they're going to die. I don't feel like going inside and getting the bug spray. I need to do that next time, though. But with the exception of this area here, the weeds are largely in control. We're going to talk about some of the weeds. I have a lot of food in this garden. So without further ado, let's dive in and let's start talking about what we have going on in this garden. So let's start, because we're right here, let's start with what we have behind me. Here, I have a whole big, beautiful mess. These are all of my asparagus fronds, and they're starting to put off their seeds. You leave your asparagus fronds go until February, and I've found there's a little asparagus frond growing right beside my pond. So I'm going to transplant that out later. And my asparagus is still giving me asparagus. This is a new shoot that has opened or shot up, and obviously it's gone too far. But I stopped checking. I've never had asparagus continue to asparagus in July, and I had some in June. I see a couple of other ones here that are not that big. So I have asparagus still asparagus in. And That's, I think, a go Caitlin moment. So coming down here, we have a massive zucchini plant. We have our kale here, and then we've lost our path with the kale. The kale has fallen over. The kale is aphiding at this point. When I just shook it, all of the little aphids came off. The bunny is still eating the kale. So the kale stays in the garden for a long time because the bunny still eats the kale. At some point, the kale stops being human kale and it becomes rabbit kale. And so while it has aphids, when you touch it, all the white flecks that are flying around are the aphids. The back of the kale so far is pretty good. We have some aphid, looks like maybe damage down here, maybe some nests down here. But at this point, this is still washable and usable. But like I said, I'm saving it largely for the bunny because she enjoys it. But once we get rid of the kale, we still have a row. We're having a really good year with our tomatoes, trellising our tomatoes up. I haven't harvested any big tomatoes yet, and I'm not getting a ton of big tomatoes. So we'll talk about that when we get to that row. But first, I want to show you this green bean arch. So that is the green bean arch. Like I said, clearly one side grows better than the other, but it is starting to go onto the other side. And so I'm training the vine to grow down the other side. So I'm hoping I can get this green bean arch to kind of cover at least most of that trellis. But we are flowering, so we should have green beans any day. We don't have any baby green beans yet, so maybe give me a week and a half. But then I should have green beans, and I'm excited. Back here in this space is the largest, messiest part of this garden here. I did pull a lot of the weeds in the beet bed. The problem that happens when you're gardening, especially when you have root crops, so these were beets that you can see have weeds this tall. When the weeds get established, and as hot as it was and as much as it rained, so I wasn't able to get out here, the weeds very quickly get roots and they get established. And what happens is if you try to pull them, you end up pulling the plants that you wanted. So I couldn't actually pull the beets for a while because I was pulling the beet plants out. So what I actually came in and did this weekend, I was tired of the mess. Luckily, I have beets that are lower to the ground. They are trying to send their leaves up taller. Let me show you. So what I did is I had beets that are getting leggy because they were fighting with the weeds. So I had weeds this tall, and I had beets that were getting leggy or trying to reach the light. So I was like, we either need to pull it all or do something. And so I was able to come in, and because the beets weren't as tall as the weeds at this point, and now the beets are more established, I was able to pull a lot of the weeds out. You can see there are definitely still weeds in here. But now that the beets have a little bit of a better hold, I was able to pull some things out. So I think I'm giving the beets a better chance at getting big. They are starting to grow. Still, some are very, very tiny, but I think weeding this will help give it more sun and hopefully give me a fall harvest of beets. We have a zucchini here. But then we have our Brussels sprouts. And this is a project I might get to this week. I might not. For this Brussels sprout here, I took all of their leaves off. I snapped all the leaves off. The Brussels grow in the armpit of the plant. So I snapped all the leaves off to help the Brussels grow. I've done that before every single time. They snap off real easy. You don't have to be concerned about snapping your Brussels off with them. Just snap them and they make a good mulch. The cabbage leaves, Brussels sprout leaves. I've done it before, and I've gotten little itty bitty heads of Brussels sprouts. Nothing to write home about, nothing to honestly even make for dinner. What I'm going to do this year, and I don't know when I do this, so I need to do research, is I'm going to take the top of the Brussels sprout off too. I'm going to leave it just a stub. So all of its energy won't go into the leaves. It won't go into the top trying to flower. It'll just put its energy into the actual Brussels sprouts. This is my hope. So I don't know when I'm going to top them. I probably will top them this weekend. I'm thinking that's a good time to get that done. So hopefully I get Brussels sprouts. And then I have my carrot, the beautiful white flowers carrot that's gone to seed. So I had peas, snap peas in that bed. The snap peas didn't do well. They gave me a couple. But at this point, I'm just going to kind of let that whole thing go. It's just going to hold Brussels sprouts. It has 6 Brussels sprouts in that bed. The 2 in the front are the biggest. So we're just going to leave that bed for the Brussels, and we're going to leave this beet bed for the beets. As soon as I get beets of any good size, I'll pull that. And then once I can harvest from these 2 beds will probably be one of the first ones that go to bed. We're right at that point where as things start to come out, I'm replanting some things, and some things I'm like, you know what, I'm ready for you to go to bed. So when these beets come out, when the Brussels sprouts are done, we have a while on the Brussels sprouts yet, but they will go to bed. One thing I really need to do that I'm not doing, I just don't have the time right now, is weed this strawberry bed. You can't even see any strawberries in there. It's just a weedy mess. So I need to come in and weed that. And then if we keep kind of scrolling over this way, this is a weedy mess. So I've weeded this whole area. I have a big pile of weeds here. The chair is sitting on a massive pile of weeds that tomorrow morning I intend to move out of here. I weeded this whole space maybe a month ago. And this is where we are. We are just hip high with more weeds. So I don't know what my plan is. I might honestly just bring the weed whacker in here and just cut it all down and then put cardboard down and straw. It's just I'm doing my best. I have weeds all throughout here. Life happens, and I can't keep up with it all by myself, and especially as hot as it's been, and the amount of rain that we've had that I can't even get out here and do work. We are giving ourselves a grain of salt. Look at this sunflower, huge. So in here I had another bed of snow peas. These ones were snow peas. And they're still actually giving me a little bit of snow peas. Let's get a snack. I have a little tiny one. Oh, you're not quite ready. Oh, they're giving me a couple of snow peas, but they're largely done. So the snow peas have to be ripped out. I have tried to plant a fall harvest of snow peas and snap peas, and I've gotten them to grow, but not to the point of producing. So I don't know if I'll do that or not this year. I'm kind of on the fence. But then the only thing in this garden are these sunnies that are getting ready to bloom, or this garden bed. And then I have zinnias that are getting pushed over by the sunflowers. And some carrots that are going to seed. So I have Queen Anne's lace. And I have 2 marigolds at the bottom that you can't see. So I think that bed is probably going to go to bed too. And look at this random sunflower. It's growing underneath the picnic table and it's branched out. So in order to walk through this aisle, I have to step over it. But we don't get rid of volunteer sunflowers. But this is another bed. Once these sunflowers stop flowering, they will get cut out of this bed. And then the zinnias will have more space. And then that bed can kind of just go to bed. So I have a lot going on. So as soon as I'm able to, and I don't really have a plan, I do want to start putting some things to bed. So it's not December and I'm still fighting to get this garden ready for winter. Before we lose the light, look at those sunflowers. I can see them from my kitchen window and I'm obsessed. I love a tall sunflower in a garden. Fantastic. So the tomato row is doing good things. I really am liking this trellising system. I'm not staying up on it as much as I should be. Again, I just don't have enough time. But the tomatoes are getting tall and they're growing up. I will say, let me see if I can find a clip. I will say, I don't think I'm getting as many tomatoes. Now, it's still early, but it's mid-July. And my tomatoes are not coming in as much as I would think they would be. So I'm a little concerned. My tomatoes plants they're not loaded. They have plants. They had tomatoes on them. See, I need to really work on this. They have tomatoes on them, but 100% not as many as I would expect. Um, I did a heavy prune for the first time this year and kind of regretting it. Everyone tells me to do it and you still get tomatoes, but so far I'm not getting the number of tomatoes that I would expect. Okay, I'm getting tired. It is hot, it is sweaty, and I'm getting eaten alive, and we still have so much to do in this garden. And that's the thing. That is the thing. I want to be out here, I want to do stuff, but I have killed probably 30, no joke, probably 30 mosquitoes on me. 31. Um, it's hot. It's humid. I am a very sweaty mess. My ice cubes have melted. I am not having a great time. The summer garden, you really gotta love gardening to do the summer gardening. So we might do this a little bit of a speed tour. I want to show you my onions because my onions might come out this weekend. I don't really know. So again, we have a ton of weeds. We always get weeds in the onion bed because I can't pull the weeds because I'll disturb the onion. But our onions are bulbing up, some better than others. So the rule is when onions lay over is when you want to harvest them because then they're done. They won't grow any bigger. The onions got laid over with the kale. Initially, the kale fell onto the onions. They got laid over that way. And then the rain helped push everything over. So all of my onion tops are basically over. I don't know if they're over because they're done growing or if it's because of the weather and the kale. I did see today one of my onions was trying to flower. I pulled that real quick. And now I am looking, and a lot of my onion greens appear to starting to be dry. Are starting to die back. So I think I'm making an executive decision that this weekend the onions are coming out. They are small. They are small. They're between golf ball size and a little bit larger golf ball size. They're not as big as they should be. I heavily fertilized them with nitrogen, so my greens did great. I did stop the nitrogen to focus on root growth, bulb growth, but they didn't get big. But every little bit we get is what we get. So I'm going to be happy that we got what we got and use it as a learning experience to see how can I get them to be bigger. Plan is this bed here. This is the weeds. Hi. That bed is the onion bed. I'm going to pull that probably this weekend. And then I'm going to plant white sunflowers in this bed. And then there's a duplicate bed on the other side that had the potatoes in it. Well, no, I guess it had the red onions in it. It grew a whole bunch of volunteer potatoes. We pulled those potatoes out. Now it's growing a whole bunch of volunteer cherry tomatoes. When I plant these, I'm going to plant both of them at the same time. So that other long bed, it's a mishmash right now. It's a mess right now. It's growing food, but not food that I planted in it. I think those two beds are going to grow the white sunflowers. So I think that will be nice in this space. And then sunflowers also add good nutrients into your soil. So I think that'll be good. And then they'll give me fall sunflowers, so I like that. So we've worked our way down. We have our tomato trellises, volunteer sunny. Like, I just love when things are so big. I think it's fantastic. Over here, we have our massive artichoke. So here, and let me go stand beside him so you can really see how big he is. This is our artichoke. We got this guy in beginning of May. So we planted him 2.5 months ago. And he was just one single stalk. He is massive. He has done massive, massive, massive things. So I'm excited to see if he gives us an artichoke. And then this is our pepper bed. I've started to harvest peppers. I got a whole bunch of banana peppers so far. So I'm going to start doing some pickled banana peppers. I realized last year the way I like to eat my banana peppers is to use, instead of just using a regular pickling brine, to do a bread and butter pickle brine. I think that is, it's just an extra level of spice I really, really enjoy. So we have a whole bunch of snack box peppers. They're growing. They're still a little on the small side. The peppers really like the heat, so I expect them to really keep growing in these warm temperatures. I'm realizing I don't think I have bells. I think my peppers got really mixed up. I thought I put 2 jalapenos on the ends. They're bananas. I thought I put 3 bells in that bed over there. The one so far is a banana. So I don't know if I have any jalapenos, and I don't know if I have any bells. So that was a really big screw up on my part. I've already told myself I don't like to buy produce outside of my garden. I really like to just use what I can grow. But I've already told myself, if you don't have any bell peppers growing, you're going to buy some, you're going to preserve some. It's going to be just fine. You're not going to tell anybody. It's going to be fine. Because I can't imagine going through this next year without any bell peppers. I love to stuff bell peppers. So I can't imagine doing that. Okay, so here's where we have a lot going on. This is really where the garden really gets into her sweet spot. So here, in this wildness, is my grape tomato. This is the first round of tomatoes I'm harvesting from. There are a couple of red ones on there now. Not quite picture perfect red, but they're blushed. They're a little past the blush. They're a little past the blush stage. So I might probably give them till tomorrow afternoon, and then I'll pick them. I like to pick my tomatoes in the heat of the day because it really just makes them so much sweeter. So we have this guy just taking over this whole corner. He's actually, I think I might have helped this, but the cage is falling over. It's a whole mess. But then also in this space, I left my basket out here. Also in this space here, let's come over here. Also in this space is my sweet potato vines. And they are really starting to grow this way, which is exactly what I wanted. I have 2 massive zucchini here that are still producing zucchinis. So that's really great. But then over on this side, and I'm going to take you over, I have squash moving this way. So I have squash moving this way. I have pumpkins, some baby pumpkins I showed you earlier on. We have watermelon. We have cantaloupe. I don't have any watermelon and cantaloupe that I can eat yet, but I have some baby cantaloupes that are really small. I don't have any baby watermelon yet. And then I have a massive, I think it's a pumpkin, massive pumpkin growing over here. And it's not giving me anything yet. It's giving me a ton of male flowers, but I don't see a single baby pumpkin on it. Single female flower. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. Well, I'm stepping on so much stuff. And then behind this sweet potato patch is the bed that our potatoes were originally planted in. I did throw seeds in there for broccoli and cabbage, and I want to do kohlrabi yet, but I haven't seen them germinate yet. I probably just did that like 4 days ago, but I think I'm going to get the seeds and actually start them inside and then see if I can't transplant them out. And then when I do, if I either get seeds to grow from what I direct seeded, or if I start transplants and transplant them out, I'm going to move these hoops over to that area. As of right now, I have my shade cloth all kind of wonky. You're like, Keelan, your shade cloth looks like a mess. Because in this space, I had the shade cloth covering some cauliflower that is heading up and some cabbage. So I have I have 1, 2, I think I have 3 cabbages yet that are coming. One looks great, one looks okay, and one looks ugh. So I have the shade cloth physically over the cabbage because they do need it, and over some cauliflower, so it looks wonky, but it is doing its job. And then here, let me bring you down and show you. Just today, I planted our potatoes. So I pulled this straw back and I just set our potatoes on the surface. So this is going to be our fall potatoes. This is going to be Idaho bacon potatoes. So I filled that whole straw area with potatoes, and I'm really excited to see them grow. I'm debating going to get another round of potatoes. So in the spring I did red potatoes. That's Idaho bacon potatoes. I'm debating going to get like a Yukon Gold and putting a Yukon Gold on the other side of this bed. So I do have some cabbage. I do have some cauliflower that are coming. I think I might try to clear out that bed. I have one cabbage that's been under there that's almost ready to be harvested. So I'm thinking for the next week or two, probably the next week maybe, I might try to clear that bed a little bit and then plant that side of the bed in a Yukon Gold kind of potato. I love planting potatoes in the fall because then you harvest them in the fall. Or I love planting them in the summer and then you harvest them in the fall. And they take 20 seconds to plant. And then when you harvest them when it's cool. Right now is when potatoes are coming out and it's miserable out here. I'm not having a good time. So harvesting a ton of potatoes in the summer is terrible. Throw them in the ground, cover them, and then you can enjoy harvesting them in the winter. The one thing I will say, 2 years ago, I did my fall potato harvest for the first time, had great success. Last year, I watered them, thinking, hey, I just planted them. They need water. And I made them rot. So don't water your potatoes. Put them in. Don't water them. These potatoes were starting to go bad. There were some that had rotted. So I tried to cut around the rot. So I'm hoping that's not an issue. I'm hoping that they didn't start rotting and they're just going to keep rotting in the ground. They should grow me potatoes. So fingers crossed. And then if we just turn over here, like look at this mess here. Look at this mess. So I have this pumpkin vine giving me little itty bitty pumpkins, which I'm really excited for. They'll be great for decorating. They're already orange. They're already ready to be picked. So I'm going to keep an eye on them and make sure that they don't start like rotting or anything. Because it's only July 17th and I'm not ready to pick them yet. So if I need to, I'll pick them. They'll last for a while. But I have a whole bunch in here I see, which is really exciting. I still have a couple kohlrabis over here I didn't mention. I'm leaving them in to see if they grow a little bit more, but I also am hoping to start some of them for fall too. Back here we have our watermelon. We also, I didn't mention, have a butternut squash growing up on the fence. So that's fun. We have a watermelon going this way. It's out of the fence in the yard. It's no babies on it yet. It is starting to flower. So hopefully we get watermelon soon, but nothing yet. And then back here, this is the massive pumpkin. I have a cantaloupe growing up my trellis. I have a cantaloupe growing back that way. I have a cherry tomato, an orange cherry tomato back there that I really have to fight to get to. I really have to want those tomatoes to beat through this mess. And to get actually back there, I need to put on some long pants and maybe even some long sleeves. So to really get back there, you really have to want to get back there. But there's a lot growing in there. Pumpkins, butternut squash that I can see. Hopefully watermelons, hopefully cantaloupe, and hopefully big pumpkins. I'm really hoping that they actually give me something. Okay. I'm itchy. I'm hot. Let's get out of this garden and let's go over to the flower farm. So here's my flower farm. It is not flower farming. Let's talk about a couple of things. I made a couple of mistakes this year. I did get all 4 beds planted. Not all 4 beds grew things. So in this front bed, I have one zinnia that was left over. For some reason, I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't plant near the zinnias that I thought I did. I have 3 in the garden, 1 on either side of my garden gate, 3 in the patio garden, and 1 here. It's like 10 zinnias. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't plant that many. So next year I really need to get on with it because I don't know what I was thinking. So only 1 in here. I do have some peppers in here. They're not doing great. They're small because again the weeds are taking over. I did come in here and try to weed, and I was pulling out some plants. I have some color in here, but not much. I made the mistake this year, which we're not going to do last year. I had snapdragons in this bed that overwintered. They survived winter. It was May. No, I guess it was April, and they were alive. Somehow, they all died, and only 1 survived. So I bought some snapdragons from the local nursery, and I think the ones I got were just very small. They're not getting tall. They just stayed small. And at this point, they're not doing anything. They were doing stuff in here. I I just yanked one because it looks a little dead. I didn't mean to yank it, but it came out. They're all kind of looking dead. So I don't know if that's because of the oops, see, I'm pulling a Lisianthus already. I don't know if that's because of the you seem like a shadow. I don't know if they're dying because of all the weeds. I guess it's me. Or what the deal is, but they're not doing well. And they were small anyway, so they weren't for cutting, which is the purpose of this whole flower farm. So there's that. So I need to next year 100% plant more snaps because these didn't do anything. Lisianthus though are doing really, really good. I have some really, really pretty Lisianthus in here. See, I'm trying to pull these weeds and this wants to come out with it. I already pulled this one and I had to replant it. So we have a couple of really pretty Lisianthus purple ones. This one is like a pink and purple. Very, very pretty. We have a poppy down there. That's doing great. They're doing good things. I'm getting flowers off of them, but this bed definitely looks like a mess. And I also have another Vining something or other in here. Pumpkin. I don't know. But then in here, our straw flowers are looking really good. A lot in there. There's are two different varieties. I'm really loving the look of them. I've already harvested them and I'm gonna dry some to have for fall and winter bouquets. And then in here, this whole area was poppies. Lesson about poppies. They bloom and then they're done. So they bloom, they put on very pretty poppies, and they have all of them have stopped blooming. So I had this whole little section for these poppies, and they're done. I was hoping they were going to be like a forever summer thing, like bloom all summer. They didn't. So that space is no longer used. And then I have my Gomphrena, but my Gomphrena is not getting tall. This is Gomphrena, which I'm so excited to put in bouquets, and it's growing, but it's staying really short. So I don't know what the deal is with that. I'm not sure what happened. And then this bed down here that's full of weeds right now, I planted sunflowers in it, and the squirrels had a feast. Sunflower bed though does look gorgeous. So I hope to, when I plant the other two beds with sunflowers, I hope to put more sunflowers in the bed that's empty, just filled with weeds, pull all those weeds out, and put sunflowers in. At this point, those weeds have gotten established, so that's not going to be fun. But I keep saying I'm going to do it each weekend, and I haven't gotten to it. So maybe this weekend is the weekend. I don't know. It needs to cool down or something before I can get out here and do stuff. So the flower farm is not looking great this year. There's a learning curve for sure. And there are years where you do great, and there are years that you don't. I remember one year in the garden, I thought I grew tomatoes and peppers from seed, so I planted them all out, and in reality I had like 50 some tomatoes and nothing else. And so the whole garden was filled with just tomatoes, and I didn't trellis them, I didn't do anything with them, and so they were all sickly. So I didn't even get any tomatoes off of them. So that year, that whole garden was a complete mess. Okay, actually I want to finish this thought, but I'm getting in. So let's go inside and I'll finish my thought in the air conditioning. It is miserable outside. I'm sorry. Normally once you get started you kind of forget about it, but my hair is sticking to me. I am soaking wet. I'm getting eaten alive. I'm covered in mosquito bites. I'm not having a good time. And that's the problem. The garden needs so much attention, and I want to give it to her, and then I go out there and I'm like, I'm good. Growing the weeds. I don't care. So I'm hoping to get out there tomorrow and clean up the weeds I've already pulled, and maybe even harvest those onions. We'll see. But the flower farm, we need to do some heavy thinking on. I definitely don't want to have this kind of a mistake next year. And like I said, it is a learning curve. I didn't know the poppies would only do one showing. I thought they would keep going. So that was space. That was a lot of space I shouldn't have done. I need to figure out why the Gumfrena are not getting tall. They are supposed to get tall. Is it a nutrient issue? Should they have been cut back when they were little? Like, I need to figure that out. The straw flowers are doing great. I'm loving them. I'm loving the Lisianthus. I need to get more Lisianthus next year. I definitely want to have more of them because they're really pretty. And then I need to definitely have more Snapdragons and Zinnias. So hopefully next year I need to make a better emphasis to get that flower farm really thriving. I don't really know what happened this year. I planted it and it got eaten, and then it never got planted. That one bed never got planted again. So I need to do a better showing of that. But we are in July, so I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks to do an order for tulips, because those beds will get planted with tulips in the fall. Sometime in October, November, December, I'll put tulips in the ground, and then I'll have a spring showing of tulips. So I want to get all 4 of those beds planted with tulips this fall. So I know we'll do that. I might get one of those other beds planted with another round of sunflowers for fall. I'm not sure. We'll see how we go. Right now I'm just so itchy. I had no desire to ever go outside again. But we are really kind of rolling in the produce. We're really starting it. Over the weekend we did some sauerkraut and we did some zucchini cakes and zucchini muffins. I have a bowl of banana peppers in there, so we're going to start doing our pickled banana peppers. I have tomatoes starting to come in, so we're going to start freezing some of the cherry tomatoes for winter eating. So we're really in that harvest. We've already harvested our potatoes. I need to get them canned up. So we're really kind of in that heavy harvesting season. My big tomatoes there's a ton on those plants. Not as many as I want, but there's a ton on there. So hopefully we can start eating some of them. Hopefully they keep producing more and more tomatoes. I'm wondering if the heat that we had at the start of this, because once tomatoes get above 90, they start dropping their blooms. And we were like in 100-degree temperatures in like middle of June. So I'm wondering if that kind of pushed my tomatoes back a little bit. I don't know. The zucchini is still zucchini-in. That makes sense. And then we have a ton of squash going. So there is a ton of food in that garden. She is a wild thing right now. I did realize the one reason that I think she's so wild and the reason it bothers me so much is I have the beds so close together. So I'm working on a small space anyway. And how I set up the garden is originally I have stairs to go down my backyard from like at the top portion of my yard and the bottom portion. I have stairs that connect them. And I kind of just wanted the garden to run the length, or to be in that area between the stairs and my side yard. And I put a patio in up top, so it kind of works. So I have a patio, and then my patio garden, and then a hill, and then we go into the big garden. So that works nice. So it started out small with just like 5 beds, and it was just for fresh eating, and then it quickly blossomed into grow everything and make everything yourself. So if I was starting, even at this property, if I was starting fresh, I would have taken my garden the whole way down to the end of the yard and spread everything out a little bit more. The fact that I have things growing on top of things means I have things in my beds that are encroaching into the walkways. And then I don't have a walkway, and that helps make it feel crazy and cluttered and messy. When you honestly go out and look, the only weeds in that garden are the strawberry bed and that where the corn is. I didn't even show you the corn. There's corn in there too. How bad is it when you can't even see the corn? There's corn in there with corn on it. So I should actually look tomorrow morning. I saw when I was talking to you, I saw one of the tassels was browned. So that corn actually might be ready to pick. But that area has weeds in it growing in between the corn. I obviously can't weed that while I have corn growing. And then just that whole little area kind of between the corn and the strawberry bed. I don't go over there. That's where Hyacinth used to live, and I move her out of the garden every summer. Or I move the bunny that I have out of the garden every summer because the garden gets too hot. So I'm not over in that area, and it shows. It's grown a lot of weeds. But other than that area, the main garden itself doesn't actually have a lot of weeds. It's just a lot of plants that are just exploding. And then the flower farm does have weeds, but again, it's hard to pull without pulling the plants. So you could cut. I don't know if cutting the weeds is any better than, I don't really know. Maybe that's better. Cut the weeds and just make them regrow until you can pull them out. Maybe that's what I'll do. But as crazy as it looks, there's not actually a ton of weeds. I am staying on it pretty well, but just because I think I put the whole garden, I kind of smashed a lot to a very small space, and I'm growing a lot in a very small space. It looks definitely messy, but I just keep trying to focus on, there's a lot of food in that garden, and you are going to be eating well. Hopefully. So thank you guys for coming along on this adventure. I got new ice cubes for my drink, so I'm going to finish my very watered down drink at this point. And then I'm going to get a shower and go to bed because I did not have a good time in that garden. They always say in February when you're starting your seeds, think of the summer gardener. And in February when I miss the garden, I miss the heat, and I'm tired of the cold, I'm just like, Keelan, you can deal with the heat because this cold sucks. And you know what? I feel like I could deal with the heat. I feel like I could deal with it. I always forget about the bugs. I always forget how annoying mosquitoes are and how many there are. And then two, I always forget that I am wildly allergic to the garden. I am very allergic to, I think it's squash plants. I think it's allergic. I get very itchy when I touch squash plants, and that's part of why I'm scratching so much right now. I'm between the zucchini and the watermelon and the pumpkin. My legs are screaming. So I always forget about that part too, and I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. It's in your head. It's not in my head. I'm itchy. So I'm gonna go deal with me. I got a lot going on right now. I feel like all I'm doing is itching right now in front of you, and talking about it is not helping. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Our next garden tour might be in the winter with the snow, so I don't really know, but I'll see you then. Bye, friends.